Am I breathing fire? All right, maybe eating the whole wing was a bad choice.
Hello and welcome to Heat of Night, where we tackle 4 wings and 4 tough questions from mild to crazy hot. My name is Chris Featherling. I'm the Instructional Technology Coordinator here at Lincolnway Central, and today's guest is one of our social science teachers, football and badminton coach, and most importantly, a friend of mine who makes room E217, the social science department in Lincolnway Central, a brighter and more fun place to learn, Mr. Matthew Robbins.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Robbins, welcome to Heat of the Night. You've been a highly requested person on this show from a lot of kids and staff members. But I know that you really don't like hot food. You just like challenges.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of hot foods. And I'm very nervous doing this right now. But here I am. They call me out. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So before we start, I had this question requested, but it's not one of your actual questions. Before we start, is it true that you once ate almost 20 Snickers ice cream bars in an eating competition, but then lost?
This is a factual statement, Chris, Mr. Featherling. It was a rough day at the Hopper household when the challenge was done, and needless to say, it's been several years, and I've been constantly calling out Mr. Babcock to redo the competition. He's a teacher at Lincolnway East, but he has been ducking me for these last 8 years. So the challenge is back out there, Mr. Babcock. Let's do it.
I've never known Mr. Babcock as someone to dodge challenges like this, but I just, it's out of character, but it just happens.
Shocked me as well.
It's a Griffin thing.
Yep,
I don't
it
know.
Must be.
So, well, let's go ahead and dive into wing 1, which we have Hot Ones, the classic. So I think you're going to like this one. This one's good.
I know you're probably not supposed to eat the entire wing, but I haven't had lunch yet, so
I was gonna comment on the fact that I assumed you were gonna eat the whole wing.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see if you continue to eat the whole wing as we get hotter.
Let's see. That was a beautiful taste right there. It was good. It was solid.
So I know you grew up in Peatone, Wilton Center, technically, for those of you who are Manhattan Peatoners. But I grew up in Manteno, also a small town. So tell me what it was like growing up in a small town, but then moving on to a big school like Lincolnway Central.
I mean, there's good and bad growing up in a small town, and especially when a last name like Robbins and a face that everyone recognizes. I couldn't go anywhere without anybody be like, which Robbins do you belong to? Mm-hmm. And I would always say like, well, how do you know I'm a Robbins? And they would laugh and be like, we know you're a Robbins. Like, is it Al? Is it Bob? Like, who it is? So, it was great because you always knew somebody. And still to this day, for example, for our wedding, we went to Kirby's Bakery, and typically you have to put a deposit down for the dessert. And she goes, I've known your family for, decades, so we know where you live. You're fine. Just pay the bill when it's ready to do. Yeah. And like Mrs. Robbins is like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, this is great. This is what living in a small town is like. But the transition from that is kind of like, in a bigger school, you see students that you don't know. And in Peatone, there's 500 students, and I was either related to most of them or I knew all of them from the classes. So like you knew everybody, you knew everything they did. And out here, it's kind of like you see students in the hallway you don't know, and it's just like kind of be different. You can just have not as many. It's hard though because you don't have a relationship with everybody. But then in the hallway, you say hi to people, and they're like, "Who's that guy?" So it's just different.
Yeah, I think it's cool because it seems like every kid has their group of teachers or students that they can rely on. And I know that you have a ton of kids like that who rely on you every day for help, for talks, for anything they need.
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into number 2, Los Calientes. My wife teaches Spanish and yelled at me for how I pronounce it the last episode, so I practiced that.
It's got a little more kick to it. Mm-hmm. That's good.
So we're amping up a little bit.
Whoever put the sauce on these wings is a great guy. Mm-hmm. Good job.
Thank you to Mr. Waddell. Shout out. So this was on one of the questions I definitely wanted to ask you. So you're very lucky to be a part of a special group called Peer Helpers here at Lincolnway Central. Tell me about what Peer Helpers is and why it's so special to you, and especially it's being so special to so many staff members who continue to do it and kids who love being a part of it.
Well, it's funny, the way I got into it is Mrs. Peel needed a male sponsor, and she basically said, like, who's the only idiot who would go? And they're like, oh, that new teacher, Matt Robbins, he'll go do it. And so, like, I had no idea what I was getting into. And the first weekend I went there, and I'm like, this is different. But I'm like, this is awesome. And really, the biggest thing that you get to see students in a different light, in a different place. You know, you see them in the classroom. For me, I see them on the sporting fields. But like here, you kind of get to know them differently, and you build a different relationship more than just like, hey, you need to play this, you need to do this, or hey, get your homework in. And it's kind of cool to see the background of students. You get to know them personally, and it's just a great experience. And they do a great job with communicating and like making sure, like, there's so many times, and I know they don't come to me as often just because Mrs. Peel is their person, and I get it. But the things they hear and the things they talk about to other students, and they go back to their teachers to make sure that we're one big, safe, happy community is fantastic.
Yeah, so
great job.
shed some light. It's like, so it's basically like a retreat in a group where our leaders in the school, our student leaders and some of our staff leaders go and like, so what are some of the things that you guys get to experience and do when you guys are on the retreat?
Really, they talk about, it's like active listening skills. So basically what we're doing here, your eye contact and listening and communicating and body language and all those things. And it's really just about picking up when students are talking to you, like, is this my boyfriend broke up with me. Okay, we can talk about this and we can give you some, we can figure it out. Or like there's something more serious and like, I need to go get an adult because there's something more serious going on. So we just give them the tools to be able to communicate with people, and then also the tools of, this is something that is more serious and I need to get an adult involved in this situation, so make sure everyone's safe.
Oh yeah, the staff members we have in here are definitely prepared and great group for those kids. So now we get to what is specifically the worst of the wings, the bomb beyond insanity. This thing psychs people out. And here we go, Mr. Robbins.
Here. So far, so good. All right, it's starting to hit me. Am I breathing fire? All right, maybe eating the whole wing was a bad choice.
Breathe. So, I'll do a talking for a little bit.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I know from my role as IT coordinator how good of a classroom teacher you are, especially with your knowledge of history and how you're continuing to build knowledge in history, the reading, research. I know you as such a great person with that. But many of our students know you from your variety of coaching roles here at Central that include football, badminton, and formerly basketball. What do you do to build such good relationships with your student athletes, and what does that mean for you to have those good relationships with them?
I don't know. For me, it's just being myself. Is you kind of put, as a coach, you kind of have to put yourself out there a little bit and like let them know who you are as a coach and what you expect. And once you do that, you can kind of figure out what they need as a player. So, the biggest thing is
Did it hit your brain yet?
Yeah, it is there. My brain is on. I don't know how people do this and be able to talk as it's literally melting your brain. But you kind of understand what students need, and when you tell them about yourselves, you kind of build trust with them. You build a relationship, and then you can kind of figure out what they need on the field to be successful. And the overall goal for us is to be successful, and that's, if that means telling a funny story or being embarrassing so that they can kind of relax and be themselves. When players are relaxed and being themselves, that's when they're going to be the best. So it's my job to figure out what they need from me to be their best. So you just got to talk to them and understand them and do the same.
Yeah, I know from knowing so many kids that you've coached and coaching some of the same kids, how much kids love having you because of just your ability to communicate with them and build that relationship with them. It's so special.
And as Ms. Robbins always tells me, like, I have a mind of a 14-year-old, so I can really relate to those 14 and 16-year-olds because that's who I am right now.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's so great. So thank you so much for all you do for our kids, because that's the important part. So now we're to what we like to call the last dab.
We got
So
another one?
If that wasn't hot enough, so what? I mean, you don't have to if you don't want. But what we do is now we try to just get a little tiny dab on here. Let's see if I can. Oh, yeah, a little drop.
We'll drop.
Just to kind of finish it off with something special for our last and fourth wing.
Oh, that was a little more than I wanted.
Oh, you went heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy. You're living with that. You're living with that mistake. So let's see if it can get hotter, huh?
Yeah. Well, the good news is I'm still feeling the bomb.
Yeah.
And I don't think I felt that yet at all.
So that one's still hurting.
That one's still, but it's like, it's ratcheted up the level of intensity in my mouth here. Ooh.
So you've been at Lincolnway Central your whole teaching career. You even student taught here, which is super cool. So you've been here 12 years. But just like all of us, we have friends all over the place, different schools, districts. What's your favorite part about being in the Lincolnway Central family, and like what is really most special to you about here?
I mean, there's so many people in my life, I mean, yourself included, or like I feel like it is. We say like, my school, my home, and I really feel that here. And I'd be remiss to not say the special shout out to the social science department. In 2010, I wasn't even supposed to student teach here, and Mr. Finnegan was the department chair at the time, and he came in and said, "Hey, we had a new teacher. He wants to student teach here. His name's Matt Robbins. What do you think?" And he said, "Sure." And there was 3 student teachers, so it was kind of a rare thing to have, and that was the start of it. And Mr. Finnegan, Mrs. Peel have taken me in, and the whole social science department, Mr. Dykus, they have welcomed me in, and it's just fantastic. It's a great group of people to work with. Not only do they mentor me in like academics and like how to be a better teacher, but they've taught me how to be a better person, and it's just fantastic. And then, including like my wife is currently a teacher here as well, so it's great because we share the same students, so sometimes it's easy to talk to another teacher about this student when you have them all the time.
Yeah,
So,
I think what people don't, I mean, they do realize it. Like any workplace, like we're around people all the time, and we become such good friends and so close with everyone. And that's part of the reason that Central is so great, is because a lot of us have been here a while, and we love hanging out and being with each other and working together.
it's great.
So, well, Mr. Robbins, thank you so much for joining me and struggling through 4 wings and 4 hot questions. Thank you so much for our students who produce and edit this and do all the work. Devin Smith and Kyle Pearson, such good people. These kids are doing such a great job. We just keep on getting better and better. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time.